Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our 9-month Ultimate World Cruise adventure. And today we're on our second day in the amazing city of Tokyo. And today we hire a private guide to take us around, show us around the city, and help educate us on one of the world's most incredible cities.
Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we're living that full life aboard Royal Caribbean's 9-month Ultimate World Cruise on Serenade of the Seas.
Well, we sure are, friends. This is day 2 for us in Tokyo. As you remember from our previous video, we had docked, the ship had docked overnight, so we actually had 2 days to spend in Tokyo, which is really a treat. But today we have a tour through Tours by Locals, and there's 6 of us on this tour, and we get to see different parts of Tokyo that we didn't really see the day before, with the exception of one place. And just as a heads up, we loved our guide, and his name was Toshi. You can look for him through Tours by Local if you happen to visit this area and want a tour.
Right, and we'll put a link in the description to his Tours by Locals page, but he was absolutely excellent.
He was fabulous.
Yeah.
He met us right there at the port, which was nice. And he took us into, we got to sit in a little area in the port, and he gave us a really nice history of Japan, and it related to the things that we were about to see. And I just really appreciated that. It was probably 20 minutes he spent with us doing that.
Right. I can't agree enough. Most tour guides, they're like, okay, you want to see the sites. Let me take you tourist site. Okay, we're going to go do the things. And he took his time, and he's like, okay, well, here's what, how Japan evolved. And this was the Shogun period. This was the Emperor period. This was this. And he did that because then as we went through, we would go to a temple and he'd say, okay, remember when we talked about this period of Japan? We'd all, yeah. Oh, well, this is the temple that this emperor built. This is the temple the Shogun built. It made it so much more relatable and understandable. It's not just, oh, wow, look at that pretty building. It meant something. And so, Toshi-san, arigato gozaimasu. My Japanese is terrible. You did excellent. So
here's a great example. So we were heading towards the train, towards the subway, and yesterday in the previous video, we just went straight to the subway, but then here he stopped along the way, and here was the place where they signed the treaty to trade. Japan.
Yeah, the first time Japan opened to the West to actually start trading, and he's like, oh yeah, this was the building.
Right here.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, we walked right by this yesterday. And there's so much history that when you go with a guide that you can pick up that, wandering on our own yesterday was awesome.
Right.
But then having a guide that can teach you about a city and the places you're seeing is really, really worthwhile. So we like Tours by Locals. Be sure they're not a sponsor or anything, but we just use them a lot. And we really do enjoy using them a lot. So as we mentioned yesterday, just as a reminder, our ship is actually docked in Yokohama, not in Tokyo. We're about an hour away from Tokyo. And as we mentioned, that's because of port limitations, size of ship limitations, all kinds of things. So we do have to take the train, and it takes about an hour to get into Tokyo.
And the trains are very efficient. In fact, you can see here, we were waiting for the green train, so we knew we had to stand on the green line, that was our train that was coming up. So it just made it really easy. We happened at this time to be going on a limited express train that would make fewer stops and get us into Tokyo just a little bit earlier.
So our train arrived in Tokyo, and the funny thing was the train station exits right out of the largest kabuki theater in Japan, and it was a beautiful building. And unfortunately, kabuki is Japanese opera. It's not for everyone, but it is something really to experience at least one time.
It's all
men, white-faced, makeup, very thick, and it's very interesting to see it. But yeah, the train station exit was right there at this theater, and again, gorgeous building. And he was taking us to the Tsuki market, which is the fish market, and it's the old fish market of Tokyo. And unfortunately, we're here on a Sunday. So our overnight was Saturday to Sunday, and so the fish market was not as bustling and populous as it normally is.
Still were plenty of people.
Yeah, plenty of people, but a lot of the stalls were closed. A few of the stalls that he said, oh, these are my favorites, they're not open today, but he went to another proprietor that he knows, and Toshi-san is he's actually, this is a second career for him, so he's been around the block. He knows a lot of these people, and he took us to a fishmonger, and he cut the tuna sashimi for us right there, put it into a tray, set it up for us, put a little bit of the homemade soy sauce on it with some real wasabi, and we stood right there in front of his shop and ate it. Oh my gosh, that tuna was so good.
It really was.
It was so good. And so we walked the streets there in the market. Again, and as Toshi-san said, he goes, that you got to come here during the week, right? And so they said that Sundays and Wednesdays, I believe, were the days, and I double checked that.
Rest.
Yeah, were their days of rest. So double check that. I believe he said Sundays and Wednesdays. So if you're in Tokyo, you want to avoid those days going down there to this market, but it is worth a visit. It certainly is, and tons of great food. Tons of great food.
We continued walking through the fish market, and we even got to try some dried fish, which was tasty and again very interesting. And then as we came out of the fish market, we walked down the street and just passed by a Buddhist temple called the Suki Hongonji Temple. It was very pretty, and again the cherry blossoms are still in bloom, which was just beautiful.
Yep. And then we got on a train, and we took that train over to the Asakusa area. Now, this is one of the most famous areas of Tokyo. It's kind of in northeastern Tokyo, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of this. It's, with the temple with the giant lantern, and it's just so famous and very touristy. So now we're in an area. So yesterday you saw a lot of shopping, a lot of locals, and it was very crowded, but it wasn't exactly touristy. Now we're seeing a part where there's a lot of tourists, and not just foreign tourists, a lot of Japanese tourists, school children there, school field trips.
We're seeing rickshaws.
You can
going
rent
down
a
the
rickshaw.
street, which was kind of fascinating
to watch. It really is. So he took us into the Cultural Visitor Center for this area. And again, I never would have known you could do this, and it's free, and you can go up to, I think it's the 8th floor, and you can oversee the entire temple. And not only that, you can see over to Tokyo Tower. You can see the Asahi beer manufacturer building. It's actually shaped like a beer mug. It's golden with a silver top on it, and you can see just a little bit of the flame, although people call it the Godzilla turd because it's this big thing on the top of a building. But we could see all that from up there, and you
can see how crowded the streets are.
Oh, yes. We knew what we were in for. And once again, Tashi-san set us down at the top on some little benches and said, okay, remember we talked about this. This is this temple. And he laid it out, and he said this was why it was built, and here's the architecture of the temple. He actually talked, and I found it very interesting, how the design of the 5-tier pagoda, the 5-level pagoda, is exactly the same design techniques they used to build Tokyo Tower that was recently built. It's built under the exact same architectural standards as a 5-tier pagoda. And he showed us both of these in the drawings and designs, and very interesting, very interesting. I was geeking out on that.
Yes, you were.
And so we came out of the cultural center, and then we took on the temple and all the crowds. And so there's a long walkway that's all shops and businesses and food stalls and all that, all leading up to the next gate of the temple. But we actually stopped about halfway up that walkway and took a detour.
Veered off.
And went
time for lunch now. And he found us a little restaurant that serves what he called Tokyo pizza. And the Tokyo pizza is called okonomiyaki. And our guide said there's probably 100 places that serve this style of a meal. So it's very interesting. We went into this restaurant, and we went upstairs so that we would all fit in a location. And we were at 3 separate tables, but the tables had a hot grill. And so
kind of like a teppanyaki,
a little bit, but that's
very
not
small.
what they were. And that's not what they were cooking, or even kind of like a Korean barbecue place, where you had the griddle right in front. But they were serving the
Okonomiyaki.
pizza. They were serving at first the Tokyo style, which is a flat style, and it is made of cabbage and yam flour and egg and seafood. And that's all mixed together, and it's flat, and then you eat it right off the grill with these little tiny spatulas.
Right. This is a case where you actually don't use chopsticks because they really won't work with this because it's too mushy, liquidy, I guess you'd almost say.
Yeah.
You actually use the little spatula to eat it with, and that is completely appropriate in Tokyo. That's how they eat it. And the thing we forgot was we actually started with an appetizer.
We did a squid appetizer that was cooked right there on the grill.
Oh, and it was delicious.
It was.
And then they had the Tokyo style, and then after that we had the Osaka style, which instead of leaving it flat, they put it in a ring and then they scoop it together.
Yeah, they kind of gather it together so it's thicker and smaller, and then you're able to slice it into wedges.
Right, and then if you ever have the okonomiyaki, make sure on the Osaka style you get it with mayonnaise and teriyaki sauce.
That was very good.
It was really good, and then
tasty.
they put seaweed flakes on top of it, and it was absolutely excellent. It was an amazing meal.
Nice. That was a treat.
Yep. And so then after that, and by the way, the whole meal, once again, was something like, I think for two of us was $28 for two of us, and we paid for our guide's meal. And so we split it amongst the six of us. Yeah. And so for each of the couples was $28. So it was incredibly affordable and a wonderful meal. Two of the okonomiyaki, squid, everything. Oh, and I think I had a beer. You had a drink. It's like Coke. You had Diet Coke or something. And it was
all good.
It was amazing how affordable it was. Well, after lunch and we're refreshed and rest a little bit, now we're going to go attack the crowds at the Sensoji Temple. As we said, one of the most famous temples in probably in Japan, but certainly in Tokyo. And like we said, the pictures and everything are famous, but the crowds were pretty thick.
They were. So as we walked up to the temple gate, our guide showed us the process of what they call purification and how you wash your hands and you wash your mouth and
also with the incense and everything.
All of that.
It was very interesting learning culturally how they pray and what they do, and our guide showed us all that, and it was very very interesting to see all that. Yeah.
So then as we entered into the gates, one of the things that we saw was an area in there where they had these sticks called omikuji
sticks and little drawers and
And so what you do, you've got a container that has a bunch of sticks in it. You can hear them rattling around. There's a small hole at the end of the container, so you shake the sticks up and you turn it upside down, and one of the sticks will fall out of the little hole. That stick has a number on it, and it corresponds with the drawers that are there. And so you open the drawer and you pull out your fortune. And so this was my fortune. You can see it there in Japanese on this side, and then on the other side it does have in English what it says here. And it says, "Your wishes will be realized in the end. A sick person will recover, but will take a little while. The person you are waiting will show up after a while. The lost article will not be found.
Oh, no.
Building a new house and removal are both half fortunate. Marriage and making a trip are both good.
Well, that's good. We're on a world cruise.
And employment should be stopped."
Oh, maybe we're supposed to retire.
So that is all my fortune here.
Right. And this was fortune number 2. She got stick number 2 in the drawer. So it's but that was a little bit of fun but the temple was beautiful. The crowds were a little crazy, but it is certainly a site if you come to Tokyo that you need to be sure to go to the Sensoji Shrine. It's one of those things that you really do not want to miss when you're in Tokyo. Well, we got back on the subway system, and then we headed to now a shrine, not a temple. So this is what we saw, the Sensoji, is a Buddhist temple. Now we're going to go to a Shinto shrine. And so that's the difference in the Shinto religion and the Buddhist religion. But as our guide said, there's a balance, and a lot of times people kind of practice both and have both faiths within Tokyo, within Japan. And so now we're going to the Meiji Shrine, which this shrine is there to honor the Emperor Meiji, who was one of the most beloved emperors they ever had. He did a lot for Japan and building up Japan. And so this temple was built in his honor. As Nancy mentioned earlier, we actually did walk through this temple yesterday on Saturday. It was even much busier then. There were several weddings going on, lots of brides, there's lots of families there. But we didn't always know everything we were looking at the time, because we're just seeing the beautiful buildings and the people. Well, now Toshi-san, walked us through and really did explain a lot more to us. So one example where having a guide really helped, we saw this on Saturday, but then when we're back there with Tashi-san, he explained there's these gorgeous camphor trees, and there's 2 pairs of them right in front of the temple. Well, there's this giant rope hanging between the camphor trees, and he said, oh, you'll see that rope in every shrine, and it means something on the other side of that rope is sacred, and so you're passing over into a sacred area. Well, of course, we never knew that, and now that we've been going through Japan, and we've been to other stops now by the time we've recorded this, we're like, oh, look, the rope, that's a sacred area. We really never noticed it. So having a good guide really helped in that area. And then on Saturday, you also did another omokuji.
Yeah. I did. So this was the one I had done the previous day. Now this one actually is just a saying from the emperor. It's not necessarily a fortune, but this one says,
well, it's a haiku.
It's yeah. So here's what it looks like. Here's the back. And what it says is, even a high peak seen soaring in the sky so high above can be scaled if we desire, since there's a path for climbing.
Yep.
So that's this.
Don't give up.
Right. Yeah, and just so you know, too, this shrine, the specific shrine, is for good things. So it's for good things like when you are getting married and having a wedding, or when you have a new baby, or something very fortunate happens to you. That is when you come to this specific shrine.
Right. I loved it. I loved learning about all this in the last few days. Yep.
So, but it was time to head back home.
It was. So we had, tonight we're leaving Yokohama. So we had to get from Tokyo all the way back down to Yokohama, and that takes over an hour from where we're at the Meiji Shrine. And of course, Toshi-san was very good with the trains. He got us, one to the other, and walked us back to the ship, and we thanked him, and we headed back to that beautiful port and got on our ship. But it wasn't all over yet.
It wasn't. So we had a really nice sail away. At this point, we were tired. We didn't want to go to the main dining room, so we happened to go up into the windjammer, and an announcement came over the loudspeaker that said, to please look outside, that they're giving us a nice sail away. And a couple hundred people were probably out there with big glow stick flashlight type things, and they were just waving and cheering,
and music was playing,
and so we were all waving. At this point, our ship was all lit up, all beautiful on our side, and on their side they're just waving these glow sticks, and it was just it was a very nice sail away.
Yeah, as we've said for a couple of the other Japanese ports, we have been overwhelmed with the reception of the Japanese people in our world cruise as we come to these ports, as we're coming in and out. We just, I don't know how many people are going to be watching this from Japan, but thank you. You've been the most amazing host in having us to our country, and I hope that we can certainly be worthy of this wonderful greeting. But yeah, those send-offs are incredible. So
would you come back?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No question.
We need to spend
no question.
4 days to a week here again, I would say.
Yeah, we feel like we just scratched the surface of Tokyo, and we will be back to Japan. So far, this has been one of our favorite countries, and we're not done yet. We've got a couple others to go as well. So, and then we had the sail away, which was really interesting. We went away from the port, and we had to go back under the Yokohama Bridge. And if you remember yesterday's video, we talked about, we had to dock here. We couldn't dock in certain ports in Tokyo because our ship was too tall. And some ships can only dock at the cargo area in Yokohama. Well, we did go to the cruise. Our ship is just short enough to get out of the Yokohama Bridge. And here's a video we
It's
took from the
tight.
top deck. So take a look at this. So yeah, we've all debated how close that actually was at the top with that antenna, but
It was very
it
close.
was very close. So, but our captain certainly knows exactly how tall his ship is and exactly how tall those bridges are. So, but that was really interesting to go see. Well, sailing away from Yokohama, we are heading to one of the most beautiful areas, one of the most beautiful spots in the entire world, Mount Fuji, and it did not disappoint. She put on a spectacular show for us while we're there.
Yes,
and
she did.
You've got to tune into our next and see these beautiful pictures and videos from Mount Fuji.
All right, friends. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.